Hi, my name is Anouck Bronee. I am part of an organization called Crisis Action, and we work to protect civilians affected by war and violence. And I'm here to tell you today the story of a journey I took, a personal and physical journey with three men who have impacted my life in more ways than one. These three men are an imam, an archbishop, and a reverend, the religious leaders of a vast country called the Central African Republic. Some of you may know that the CAR experienced a very dark chapter of violence in 2013. The country was on the cusp of genocide, and these three men, instead of watching the violence spiral out of control, came together hand in hand. They toured their country through jungle and pothole roads, and they called on the armed groups to lay down their arms and to come together in peace. But the country is massive, and the violence escalated, and it just wasn't enough. Meanwhile, the world stood by idle because no one knew, no one seemed to care. It seemed like a problem that was impossible to fix. So this is where, with this impossible problem, Crisis Action came in to offer a solution that seemed very simple. I called the Archbishop in Bangui, and I told him, what do you need? What will stop the bloodshed? And he said, we need blue helmets, international peacekeepers who can come, be deployed throughout the land, protect civilians, deter perpetrators. Meanwhile, I spoke to political leaders, and they said that deploying peacekeepers to the CAR would be impossible, that the UN Security Council would never authorize it. But I didn't let that deter me because I knew that Crisis Action was uniquely placed to bring about that change. We were the joining force between the problem and the solution was simple. We were offering these faith leaders a platform on which they could call for the peacekeepers themselves. And this is how I embarked on this wonderful journey with them that took us to New York, Brussels, Paris, London, and Washington, DC. And on this whirlwind advocacy tour, I saw them go beyond their traditional role of shepherds for their communities, and they became fierce advocates for peace and for reconciliation in their country. And on these high-level international platforms, they shone. And I heard them speak with the most powerful voice I had ever heard. With compassion, humility, and great eloquence, they called for peacekeepers. They showcased their commitment to peace, the fact that these religious leaders were coming together and showing the armed groups that it wasn't about Christians and Muslims fighting. I was stirred by their stories, and the rest of the world was too. In fact, 2 weeks after we were at the Security Council together, the Resolution 2149 authorized the deployment of UN peacekeepers to the CAR. And 3 months later, they were deployed. They remain in Bangui to this day and throughout the country. And what was important about that resolution is that all 15 members of the Security Council unanimously and unequivocally said yes, and including those members who had told me just a month before that it would be impossible. I told you a few minutes ago that these men had a very powerful impact on my life. And they did that because they showed me that in the face of utmost adversity, there is hope, that in the face of terrifying evil, there is good, and that with strategic judgment and the right allies, the right messengers, the right messages, you can achieve what others say is impossible. Thank you.